Go ahead.
Okay. Well, welcome everybody. I'm going to call this joint meeting to order at 2:32.
This is the joint meeting of the
Yes,
Business Go ahead.
Business and Industry, Green Vernon, and Housing Commission. I wish there was a cute acronym for all of that. I was trying to figure out one on the break and I couldn't come up with one, but here we are. Okay. All right. And now's the time I'm going to ask everyone to mute your microphone and we will stand for the flag salute that I will lead. Okay. Ready? Begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right. Lisa, would you please call the roll?
Yes, please bear with me. Business and Industry Commission, Commissioner Klein. I think you're
present. Sorry.
Commissioner Andrioli. Didn't see him yet. Commissioner Baca.
Present.
Commissioner Condon. Commissioner Sakdeva.
Here.
Commissioner Williams.
I'm here.
You have a quorum of that group. Green Vernon Commissioners, Commissioner Dare,
Here.
Commissioner Franz. I don't think.
Here.
Yeah, oh, thank you, sorry. Commissioner Brown, I think you're just logging on, great. Commissioner Perez.
Here.
And Commissioner Stossel.
Here.
You have a quorum. Vernon Housing Commissioners, Vice Chair Goff,
Present.
Commissioner Edry,
Present.
Commissioner Herman,
Here.
Commissioner Lopez,
Present.
Commissioner Navarez, I see Commissioner Navarez, perhaps he's, there we go. Thank you. And
I'm present.
Thank you. Commissioner Ibarra,
Here.
you have a quorum.
Okay, excellent. I just want to remind everyone, since there's so many of us, to mute yourself when you're not speaking. And if you forget, we'll remind you to put it back on, but that way we don't have any interference. Let's see, Lisa, do we have any changes to this agenda?
There are none.
Okay. May I have a motion to approve the agenda?
I'll move Lopez.
Is there a second?
I'll second Edry.
Thank you. Motion by Commissioner Lopez, seconded by Commissioner Edry to approve the agenda. I'm going to quickly call the roll. So everyone turn your mics on really quick. We'll try to go fast. Commissioner Klein,
Yes.
Commissioner Baca,
Yes.
Commissioner Sakdeva,
Yes.
Commissioner Williams, Commissioner Williams.
Yes.
Thank you. Commissioner Dare,
Yes.
Commissioner Franz,
Yes.
Commissioner Brown,
Yes.
Commissioner Morfin. Sorry, he's not here. Commissioner Perez,
Yes.
Commissioner Stossel,
Yes.
Commissioner Goff,
Aye.
Commissioner Edry,
Here.
Commissioner Herman,
Aye.
Commissioner Lopez,
Aye.
Commissioner Navarez,
Here.
and Commissioner Ibarra.
Aye.
Yes.
Sorry.
Motion carries. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Now we will take public comments from members of the audience. If you would like to provide a public comment through Zoom, please click the raise the hand button. Do we have any?
There are none.
Give them just a moment, just
Yeah.
in case. So those that are attending the meeting, if you'd like to address the commissions, please use the raise your hand button down at the bottom of your Zoom screen. We'll give you a few seconds to raise your hand. I don't see any hands raised.
Okay. We will now go to presentations.
Thank you. Item number 1 is the local hazard mitigation plan, and I will present the report. The city received grant funds to develop a local hazard mitigation plan, which is the strategic plan to assess and reduce threats the community faces from any current and future possible hazardous conditions. It also is important because it allows us to receive funding after emergencies. The city's consultant, Atlas Planning Solutions, is here to present an overview of the local hazard mitigation plan, and also to provide an update on the city's project. Aaron, I believe if you could share your screen or introduce yourself first if you'd like.
Hi, everybody. My name is Aaron Fanninstill with Atlas Planning Solutions. We also have Robert Jackson with us today from our firm. And I am going to now share my screen. Make sure everybody can see that okay.
We can see your presentation.
Perfect. And I'll go ahead and jump right into it if that's okay, Lisa. All right. So as Lisa indicated, we are preparing the city's local hazard mitigation plan. The city has prepared one previously. And so this is technically an update. And what we want to make sure we share with all 3 commissions, which we are very, very appreciative that all of you have joined us together today, is really try to educate you a little bit about what hazard mitigation is, the process that we'll be going through, and how we can hopefully enlist some of your support in getting the word out and trying to get other members of the community engaged. And so, you know, really what hazard mitigation is, it's about the actions that the city and the community can take to reduce or eliminate long-term risk. So we go through a process of trying to understand where there might be vulnerabilities within the community. These vulnerabilities are focused on natural hazards, so things like floods, earthquakes, wildfires, which are really the big 3 hazards that affect most communities throughout the state. And then with this process, we actually develop a plan, and some outcomes to that plan are hopefully future actions that the community can take either on their own or in partnership with other entities, whether it be local businesses, surrounding cities, and the like. And so, you know, it's really focused again on trying to understand where we are vulnerable and then how we can take steps in the future. And so when we prepare these plans, they really focus on kind of 4 key aspects. One, we want to discuss what are the community hazards. So what is it about Vernon that's unique that we need to understand, you know, from a natural hazard perspective. From that point, we then look at analyzing what are the potential risks. And part of that analysis focuses on specific locations that the city may have key infrastructure. We want to understand the proximity to any potential hazard areas. You know, how close do you have a building to a flood zone? And then from there, how do we manage that risk and to monitor the plan? And so the plan itself is really focused on trying to walk through those steps and provide the city with all of the information needed to take future action and implement the plan itself. Now, when it comes to a local hazard mitigation plan, for some communities, they may not be aware that these plans exist. They may have never been exposed to them. Our hope is that for most of the members today, you have at least been exposed to not only these plans, but maybe the emergency operations plan and the general plan safety element. These are also 2 other plans that most jurisdictions have throughout California that really focus on how we address natural and human caused hazards. In the case of the general plan safety element, it's a chapter of the city's general plan, It's really focused on kind of the long-term or long timeline perspective for the community. So there's not a high degree of specificity within that plan because the goals and the policies really are looking out towards the future, in some cases 10 to 20 years. Whereas the emergency operations plan is really focused on the short term. So there's a lot of specificity because this is the plan that's typically used when we have incidents like yesterday. If the city of Vernon started to have flooding occur in certain areas of the city and you needed to deploy resources, the EOP, or as we call it, would be a great tool to help the city understand what are some of the different departments' roles and functions during this type of an incident. And the way emergency operations plans are written, they are scalable. So it can be used for a very small scale event, like just a heavy rainstorm, all the way to a catastrophic event like a major earthquake. Think of the Northridge earthquake from 1994 and how that devastated many communities throughout the LA Basin. Well, the local hazard mitigation plan sits right in the middle of that. And it's really a 5-year plan that focuses on, again, what are the hazards that you're concerned about and what are some potential steps that you can take as a community to address them. And there's a really important component to what a hazard mitigation plan does. And it's really the why behind we're preparing this and why a city should have this type of a plan. Not only is it really helping the city understand where we're vulnerable and the steps we can take, but it helps with not only complying with state requirements. Senate Bill 2140 is a bill that was passed back in 2007, and it's requiring a community to integrate the hazard mitigation plan into the general plan safety element. And by doing so, it gives the state some flexibility in supporting the city of Vernon during a disaster situation under the California Disaster Assistance Act. In addition, the reason that these plans were born is they came out of the Disaster Mitigation Act of 2000 at the federal level, which essentially was FEMA's way of enticing communities to go through this proactive process. And by doing so, you're eligible now to pursue FEMA grant funds that are made available on a regular basis. And we have 3 different funding sources, what's called the Building Resilient Infrastructure and Communities grant funds, Flood Mitigation Assistance grant funds, and the Hazard Mitigation Grant Program grant funds. And the 2, the BRIC and the FMA grant funds, are appropriated on an annual basis. They're actually a line item in the federal budget. However, those are highly competitive because they are you're competing across the entire nation amongst all the different states and local jurisdictions. And then the Hazard Mitigation Grant Program funds are funds that are actually attached to a disaster declaration. And so if any of these funding sources become available and you have a hazard mitigation plan in place, then you're eligible to pursue grant funding to pay for a portion of the projects that are identified as mitigation actions and strategies. And one of the good things about these types of funding sources is, especially with the HMGP sources, is while HMGP is attached to a disaster declaration, it doesn't mean that the city actually has to have been impacted by the area identified in the declaration. And so in many communities that we've worked in, the community itself has been able to pursue funding under an HMGP funding source while not having been directly impacted by the disaster that was declared and signed by the president. And so this is, again, one of the nice things about this process is you can still benefit if you were not impacted directly from the disaster itself. Unfortunately, we have to talk about disasters and it's just kind of part of this process. But what we're hoping to get out of this is setting the city up to be able to start to gain access to these funding sources and really improve some of the infrastructure and assets that the city knows, that they need to keep in good working order so that they're ready for the next incident that may occur. So the process itself of developing a local hazard mitigation plan is fairly straightforward. The project initiation phase has been complete. That was us getting started. And we're now in the planning process. And the planning process actually encompasses the rest of the steps. But for the planning process, we have to focus in on doing not only internal outreach and engagement with city departments and city staff, but now we have to also do external outreach. And that's part of what we're doing today, is sharing this process and trying to enlist some feedback. What we have been working on in the last couple of months is development of the hazard profiles. So these are the hazards that the city is concerned about, working with city staff, and then identifying the potential threats and vulnerabilities. That's part of the threat assessment phase. The next steps after that would be development of the hazard mitigation strategy. So again, these are the steps or future actions that the city would take based on your hazard profiles and your threat assessment. And then that final piece of planned maintenance is really one of the areas where we see a lot of communities fall short in the past, is how do you make sure that this plan is maintained? And we have developed a tool that we'll be providing to the city to help in ensuring that plan maintenance is a lot easier moving forward once the plan's been adopted. The final piece to the process under compilation and adoption is this plan will become a publicly available document. It will be, we will open it up for a public review period to enlist feedback and comments from the community. And then it will be reviewed by both the California Office of Emergency Services and FEMA Region 9 staff members. And once FEMA has approved it, then it would go to City Council for final adoption. And upon adoption, the plan maintains eligibility for the FEMA grant funding programs for 5 years until it has to be updated again. And so, the last piece to what we're hoping to get from folks today is really get the information out that we want folks to get involved. We do have an online survey that's available. The hyperlink below will take you to it, but it is also on the city's web page. So we've created a web page on the city's website, and then under trending topics, you can find it under the city homepage. And we hope that in spring of 2022, we'll actually have the draft plan available. One of the things we've also prepared that we would like to have an opportunity to share is we do have a very simple PDF kind of postcard that we prepared that can be shared with other businesses, other members of the community, and try to get the information out about what this plan is and what it does and how folks can get involved. And with that, I'll move on to our very last slide, which is just contact information for both myself and for Lisa. But happy to open it up for any questions and discussion that any members may want to have.
We have a raised hand from John.
Hi, John.
Yeah, I got a question. Does like they've had recently in the news, like when they have malware, fraud and takeover of utilities, would that fall under this spectrum?
So we have covered cybersecurity issues in some of the hazard mitigation plans we've done. The challenge we run into, though, is that the issues, while they're real, do not translate into actual funding for the city because it's not considered a natural hazard. And so oftentimes our recommendation is make sure that you specifically address that in the emergency operations plan, because that is the plan that helps the city understand what to do under a malware attack. Here are the steps. And oftentimes what will happen when it comes to EOPs is the jurisdiction will create what they call annexes. And so most communities now are starting to develop actual annexes to their EOP, focus on cybersecurity issues, especially working closely with their IT department and potentially any other kind of cybersecurity experts, developing those protocols and kind of having that infrastructure in place. It's a little bit outside the purview of what we typically do under a local hazard mitigation plan process. It's a great question.
Vice Chair Goff, are you back on?
Yes, I am. Is there anybody have any more questions? I actually had a question. I just wanted to know what specifically can me representing as the commissioner, as a business owner, or any other commissioners that are with us here today, how can we help you now or going forward?
So that's a great question, and we really appreciate that. I think one of the things that we could definitely use help with is making sure that we can get the message out to the rest of kind of your respective communities. So representing different businesses, making sure that the businesses know that this process is going on in ways that they can provide feedback. And one of the things that we can also share with you is that postcard, if that makes it very easy for you to email some of your contacts within the city. That would be helpful. And what we want to do is just make sure that we can get as much feedback as possible, whether it be through the online survey, which takes a very short amount of time. It's about a 5 to 10 minute survey. But what FEMA requires for this process is making sure that the community is engaged. And Vernon is a very different community from most other cities in the Southland that we've worked with. And so we have to be a little bit more creative about how we do that engagement. And we see that, you know, the members of this commission essentially hoping to be ambassadors to their respective groups and their networks as one of the best ways that we can get the word out and make sure that we can get hopefully some feedback from those various stakeholders.
I mean, the Vernon Chamber of Commerce can absolutely, help out with that. I'm sure you're aware of that group.
Oh yeah. Yeah, they're and one of the things we'll be doing is we'll be making some focused outreach to key individuals that the city has identified, one of which is absolutely the Vernon Chamber of Commerce.
Okay, are there any more raised hands, or anybody have any questions?
We have one public comment right now.
Okay. Lisa, do I need to restate the public comment?
If you could, thank you.
Okay. Please, for the person that wants to make the public comment, please state your name and business affiliation, if any, and please limit your comments to 3 minutes, and we welcome you.
Marissa, you have permission to speak. I ask you to unmute your microphone.
Her hand might have gone down.
Yes, this is.
Oh, no, it's back up. Marisa, are you able to unmute your microphone?
Sure, I think is it unmuted now?
Yes, thank you.
I was actually can you hear me?
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Oh, perfect. I was actually just simply writing in the chat room that the chamber, of course, would be very happy to help the city distribute the survey to the employers in town.
That's great. Thank you, Marissa. Would you be the contact that we can contact directly?
Yes, Lisa has my contact info.
Okay, yeah, I believe she's actually given us your information. So
Perfect.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, do we have any other Thank you, Marisa. Are there any other public comments or raised hands from our commissioners?
There are none at this time.
Okay, we can now go on to oral reports.
If I could, Vice Chair Goff.
Yes.
I really wanted to thank all of you for joining today. It's critical, as Aaron said, Vernon's a little bit different, so we need all of you to help us get this information out. If you go to the city's website, there's a hot topics button right on the home page. You click on that, it'll take you to information on the hazard mitigation plan and the surveys there as well. So you could direct people there. I also wanted to acknowledge the city team, which has a representative from each department, and they have provided great historical information and practical information that we're going to include in the plan. But we definitely need the community, the business community, the residents to help us out to make this plan really work for the city of Vernon.
And Lisa, I might suggest anything you can do to so it's easy for them to do it. If you send them an email with a link versus asking them to go onto the website to find it, I think that you're going to get much more people responding if you can make it as easy as possible for them to participate.
Thank you. We do have, we will be in touch with the chamber. Marisa, I know you're still on, and we'll get you that information so that you can distribute that through your electronic newsletter that you guys put out. We do have residents' contact information that we can send it to as well. So just any feedback that you have on ways we can get this information out to more people, other than the chamber e-newsletter would be great. Like Aaron said, if you want the postcard to send to your employees or your business connections, that would be great as well.
Yeah, and we'll be happy to actually prepare the draft email language so that it makes it very easy for anybody to forward it along. So we're trying to make it as streamlined as possible for folks to pass this information with very limited amount of their own effort.
Aaron, is there any specific information that you wanted the commissions to provide to you today, or just wanted to present the information to them?
Just presenting, and then of course, if you have any thoughts or concerns, much like Commissioner Baca's concern about cybersecurity, if there's any other thoughts you have or concerns within the community, we'd love to hear it. We can always make sure that that's reflected in the plan as part of this outreach process as well.
Okay. If the commission doesn't have any more comments on that item, I think you're ready to proceed to oral report.
Do we have any reports from commissioners or staff?
Staff does not have any. I don't think the commission does either.
Okay, well then without any further business, I will adjourn this meeting at 3 p.m. Thank you everyone for participating.
And